Hello, welcome to the program Political Viewpoint on ASO Television. My name is Topsy Gimber, your host. Political Viewpoint is a program that comes to you 3 times in a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at about this time, where we look into national issues and we discuss them holistically. It provides me the opportunity to invite guests to be with me on each of these editions to be presented. And I tell you, this evening, I have a well-known person who has been an advocate for minority tribes, particularly the Gbagi and others in Nigeria. And no any other person than Comrade Gaza Mark Auta. Today, we want to look at the Gbagi nation and the threats of urbanization. Of course, minority tribes, not just Gbagi, are gradually diminishing in this country. Sometimes there are many factors that probably might have contributed to that, but specifically the Gbagi nation, here in Abuja particularly, they have simply been taken over by the time this place was pronounced as the federal capital for Nigeria. And any other person that lived there before has been considered to be a minority and gradually being faded away. So I want to know basically, with Mark in the studio, to explain to us what that means, so that we get to know basically the steps to be taken forward to ensure that they get back to life and do exactly like any other does in society. Mark, it's a pleasure having you on the program Political Viewpoint on ASO Television.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let me quickly just ask you, Gaza Mark Auta, who is Gbagi by nature? Who is Gbagi in the first place?
Well, that's an encompassing question. It's good to be here once again.
Yeah.
It's an encompassing question. If you say who is the Gbagi man, then amongst all the tribes in Nigeria, the Gbagi man is the only tribe that has studied his environment. He is the only tribe that is in tune with his environment. He has married his environment to himself, and he has married all the characteristics of the environment as it relates to the human being. And that is why, if you see where he is domiciled, in the 6 states of the Middle Belt or the North Central, you will see that he is the only person that only talks about peace. He talks about communal life. He talks about respect, not just for individuals, but also for the land itself. So who is the Gbagi man? The Gbagi man is that foundation that binds Nigeria together. He is that person that has sacrificed his ancestral home so that Nigeria can stand. So who is the Gbagi man? The Gbagi man is a Nigerian that believes in Nigeria, and the Gbagi man holds the future of the cement of where Nigeria should be in the scheme of things of the world. That's who the Gbagi man is.
Are there cultural identities to be known with a Gbagi man other than any other person that cohabits with a Gbagi man?
Yes. The moment you are born as a Gbagi man, you have a lot of things that are enshrined in your DNA. To be born as a Gbagi man is to hold what we call not just cultural identity of the Middle Belt alone, but to be born as a Gbagi man is to represent what the rest of the tribes are to emulate. For example, when you look at the identity of the Gbagi man, I would like to refer you to not just the report of Murtala Muhammad. Murtala Muhammad set up a committee that was headed by Justice Abuda. And the mandate of the committee, first of all, was to look for the people that are peaceful, the people that understand the topography of their land and all. So in this now, you can see the identity of the Gbagi man. If, for example, you are peaceful, and then the rest of the country needs to reside where you stay, then of course you have to exude not just peace, but the understanding of how communal life can still carry on regardless of all the challenges or the exigencies that we have. So if you talk about the other identities that we exude, of course, apart from our cultural awareness, that the Gbagi man is really culturally aware, there are other identities that speaks to his dexterity, especially towards hard work, towards honesty, because you can, if you look at all the colonial reports that were given when the white man was here, you would hear that anywhere that his courts were, they would have to take a second opinion after listening to all the cases, to take a second opinion from the Gbagi man. And then once, because his word was his bond, and he would never break it for anyone. So once he had given you his word, then you should take it to the bank and cash it.
Wow.
And that is why you can see that there are acronyms up till today. Even when you go to the market, you hear them say Moyeshi Gwari Gwari. It's a subtle way of telling you that, oh, he wants everything done the way it's supposed to be, in a transparent way.
Fine. Is the language Gbagi, is it still being spoken today? Or, you know, some forces must have really dealt with it in a way, in a manner that maybe you don't speak, do you? Are you a Gbagi man?
Yes, I am.
Now, for instance, if you're a Gbagi man, for instance, you want to say good morning to your child in your language, how do you say it?
You say Hagife, Alagife, Afia. In fact, I would like to tell you that our language is well and alive. Even before they gave birth to my first daughter, and I have carried it on to the other children, I made a law when my wife was 3 months pregnant. I told her that there was no any other foreign language that would be spoken in the house unless the Gbagi tribe.
Okay.
And my daughter grew up to speak only Gbagi. She learned how to speak English when she went to the school. And every time that we're at home, of course, you know, because of the cultural erosion and the rest of them, it's very difficult for you to be able to measure all these things. So yes, progress is a slow process, but to tell you that the language is alive, it is well and alive, just like all the major tribes that we have in Nigeria. I'll give you an example. You know, if you go to Europe and you meet an Igbo man and you see his children who have never been to Nigeria, they speak Igbo eloquently. If you go to, let's say, China, and you meet a Yoruba man whose children have never been to Nigeria, they speak Yoruba eloquently and fluently. So it's the same thing with the Gbagi person. Though we are going to agree that there are some cultural nuances that have taken place over time that have been able to erode what is left of our culture. Because, you know, if you're to define culture as an identity of a people will be characterized by the language that they speak, the clothes that they wear,
the food they eat,
how they bury their loved ones, how they carry out their marriage rites, how they bury their people and the rest of them.
Yeah.
So one of them as an identity is the language. And I always like to say that language is the cement that binds culture together. Because without language, let's say language is a cement. Let's say how you dress are the blocks. Let's say the roofing is how you eat or what you eat. How you dance should be the blocks, should be the rafters that hold it together. So you see now that without the cement, you cannot even put the structure in place. So that is why language is of a very, very strong significance to the preservation of a culture.
In this time where we are living in a confusion with no clarity of where we are really going because of the urbanization of the society today, or the world has been made a community. Globally it is, but then a community right inside your pocket. Will you say there is a growth in the awareness of the young ones within the Gbagi settlement speaking Gbagi as compared to your generation as it is now?
I hate to acknowledge this fact, but I think there has been a little erosion.
All right.
Yes, because of, like you mentioned, urbanization. I don't like to use that word urbanization anymore.
All right.
Because of what I have seen, because of what it has done to our people in the city. Because urbanization actually is supposed to be something that adds value to the lives of the people. But you see, urbanization to our people became a curse due to the fact that they were to host the capital city. But while doing that, they lost their ancestral land. They lost their way of living. They lost their source of income. They lost their burial sites. They lost where they buried the umbilical cords of their children. So when we speak about urbanization and whether it has eroded our language or if we speak it, I think there are more serious issues that urbanization has even caused to our people. Apart from the fact that, yes, if you look at the typical Gbagi man, he has a communal lifestyle. He loves to live with his own people so that they can share their norms, their values, their heritage, and the rest of them. And then the Gbagi man was here. He has been here for more than 1,000 years. And all of a sudden, 50 years ago, he sees people coming with bulldozers, with demolishers and the rest of them. And then they were taking away their biodiversity. Most of them were not even aware of what was going on. And 50 years later, they are being told that they are in no man's land. And 50 years later, they have no source of livelihood. And you know, we need to look at this thing holistically. Yes, there are a lot of nuances out there where they say, oh, the Gbagi man is lazy, oh, the Gbagi man is a scar on the face of Abuja and the rest of them. But let's look at it holistically. This is someone that had a vast land where he could farm, where he could hunt and all. And all of a sudden, there was the new urbanization. And this urbanization comes without interfacing with the Gbagi man, because we have seen how it's done around the world. Urbanization, there is what they call environmental impact assessment. And it can be carried out on human beings too. And in civilized climes, even if a road is to pass within a biodiversity, if there is even a tree of significance, they don't fall that tree. The road goes right around the tree. And that tree stays there for hundreds of years. It hasn't been affected. That is a tree. But we're talking about a people that urbanization has no face, no human face. It's just as if you're carrying a sack of potatoes and you're just changing where you... And then when you displace, you know, there is a way that this thing can be done. Apart from adequate compensation, I don't like that word, compensation. Can you compensate someone who has stayed in a particular place for 1,000 years, who knows nowhere again, who communes with that particular place, and then all of a sudden he has become a squatter? All of a sudden he has been taken to the suburbs. All of a sudden, because he has lost his source of livelihood, now he has to adopt a different means of livelihood to survive. And that is why you see that the petty traders, you see the people sweeping the streets of Abuja, you see the security men are from the extract of the Gbagi speaking people. But why is that so? It is because they found themselves in an emerging new world, a world that they were trying to grasp, and they were not able to even make meaning of what this world was. And then suddenly they had been displaced. Remember,
can that be associated to lack of education among
well,
if for any other reason some other persons will come and displace you, and then you are relegated to the background, you are no longer considered human? If you were to be educated, can that have happened like the way it has happened?
I feel, if, for lack of a better word, let me say, if they were not educated, if they were educated, there would have been a little resistance. You understand?
Sure.
Let's say you see the Lagosians, for example. Don't forget that the capital of Nigeria used to be in Lagos. And these people were already exposed. They were close to the lagoon. So they were traveling and seeing the rest of the world and seeing how things were done. So, and that was why they were talking about the preservation of their culture. They were talking about the integration of even development towards their cultural survival as a people. We're talking about the Yoruba people now. And then it was too economically daunting on the Nigerian government. And that was why they had to leave, amongst other issues. So they looked for a subtle way of reducing the economic burden. And then they come here and they call it virgin land. But that is not true. And that is why I keep telling people.
It wasn't virgin.
So, how was it virgin? It's just like saying that Mungo Park came to Uke River. There is a river in Nasarawa State called Uke. And then Mungo Park comes there and says, oh, I have discovered a river. Not knowing that there are people that have been there for 1,000 of years fishing, using the water for irrigation and the rest of them. So it's the same thing. When you say, oh, you came here and there was a virgin land, but did you meet people there? And that is why some of us who understand the cultural implications of some things always advise the government that they should always sit down with these indigenous people and talk to them. You know, what we see them do is they talk at them instead of talking to them. And there is a way you will achieve a lot if you talk to them. For example, I told you earlier that the Gbagi man has married himself to his environment, and he knows how to alter his environment. So if you bring any developmental stride here, and if he has had enough that you have not been able to integrate him, he talks to the environment and he alters whatever that is happening there in the environment. But this is a subject for another day, but I've just dropped a hint. So I'm sure that the next generation should be able to pick up on some of these conversations that we're having about.
But are you of the opinion, Gaza, are you of the opinion that urbanization has really dealt so much on your people? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I feel urbanization is a good thing if it is done well. But my challenge is urbanization was not done carrying the indigenous people along. And if, for example, you want to add value to a place and you end up shattering lives, of what good is the aesthetic values? I'll tell you this for free. Abuja holds all the ethnic groups in Nigeria. But you can bear witness that when it is a festive season, let's say Salah, let's say Christmas, you find the streets of Abuja empty. So it means people have traveled to their own ancestral homes to go socialize, to go and enjoy their aesthetic values, to go to commune with even the people that they have buried. And when all is said and done, they come back. So now, look at what urbanization has done to the indigenous people, the Gbagi people. Where do they go to when it is time for festivities? Where do they go to look at all the aesthetic values that have been taken over? And that is why I always have this ideology, when I'm in my ideation cocoon, I say, why don't we agree that yes, we have done the indigenous people wrong? The first is to accept that we have done wrong to them. The second is integration. Knock off that idea that Abuja is no man's land, and then all the rest of the aesthetic values that are remaining. Tourism should be built around them. And then when there is, let's say like Gurara Falls, Karshi Hills, Zuma Rock, the rest of them, we have tourism that is built around them. And then the indigenous people have a stake, so that I know of Europeans that want to, they have what they call a bucket list. They want to go to see the walls of China. They want to go and see the Viagra Falls or Niagara Falls or whatever it is they call it. They want to come and see Zuma Rock. So, but they come and see all these things for free. But when they go to other places, they pay heavily. So I think it's a way of compensating the indigenous people. When they build tourism around their aesthetics, then we should be able to say, oh, because of the sacrifices that we have made, this is what the rest of the world is enjoying.
Yeah, Gaza Magauta, let me find out from you. Are you beginning to get dissenting voices among you? Dissenting voices, probably those who were not there when this idea of making this place a capital city for Nigeria, probably your forefather did that, and maybe the younger ones have grown and realized that the system does not really favor them. I just want to find out, as challenges are gradually coming up, or threats of life are gradually coming up, are you beginning to see some dissenting voices?
Well, even if they don't come now, they will. Because most times when you push a cat against the wall, the claws will definitely come out. Especially when the cat doesn't have anywhere else to go. So, but I would like to tell you something. It's not just the FCT that has followed Abuja.
Exactly. Because I was to ask you this question because Baggy are just only known in the FCT. They are equally found in Kaduna. Exactly. They are found in Nasarawa. They are found probably in Niger State or some other places like that. Is that the way they are? Like the way the FCT ones are?
Yes. You know, we are only separated by this, what I call artificial boundaries. Remember that when the colonial master came, he put his capital in the Gbagi community. And when the amalgamation of Nigeria came, the capital again fell in the Gbagi city. So the Gbagis, this is not the first time that the Gbagis have been housing the entire country. And you see that the FCT again today, it is the Gbagi people that are the host. And that was why in the introductory remarks that I gave, I said the Gbagi people are the foundation of Nigeria, and they will continue to be. Because, you know, without a solid foundation, you cannot build.
I'm not putting any structure.
There is a possibility again that in the next 100 years, when you and I are not here, another segment of the Gbagi people might still house whatever that will be left of Nigeria. Because we have always used our shoulders to shoulder the country. And I would like to put it on record that it is only the Gbagi man that can be able to allow this kind of development, urbanization, and the rest of them to happen without even raising a finger. Imagine that the capital city was taken somewhere else, either up north or either the south. Your guess will be as good as mine, you know, because what oil is to the south, that is what land is to the Gbagi people. So, and unless the government and the rest of the people of Nigeria begin to see it from that particular light, then progress will be made.
So Gazamak, what can you do to unify yourselves so that you have a voice in a complex society like the way it is, or you begin to emerge? What can you do, or what are those things you would do?
Yeah, I think we've started that already.
Like?
You see, we have advised our people to pursue education so that they can be able to blend into this emerging world. That is the first point of call. And then pursue economic empowerment. And the last one is to pursue political empowerment. Because it is these policy makers, remember that it was just a policy that moved Lagos to Abuja. And tomorrow it is going to be another policy that moves something somewhere. So you have to be part of the policy makers, first of all. And that is how we're enlightening our people. But we have started coming, we're coming in blocks, we're forming blocks, we're knocking off the artificial boundaries because we are all one. Imagine that in Nigeria, the population of the Gbagi people is 12 million, but scattered around 6 states. So we are talking to ourselves now as a block, regardless of the artificial boundaries and the political differences. We want to start speaking as one. And of course, if you have 12 million votes and the present president won his elections with 8 million votes, now you're beginning to see that we can use that to bargain. And we're happy now that all the scholars that we have cut across Nigeria from the Gbagi enclave have all come into one block. All the elders, called the Gbagi Elders Forum, cut across the 6 states where we are domiciled, have come together. Now we, the youths, are working on ours to come together. But there is going to be one front, which is the Gbagi Development Association of Forum, that is going to house all these pockets of blocks that are coming together so that we'll speak as one. And for example, when you hear Afenifere has spoken, they have spoken for the Yoruba bloc. When you hear Ohanize Ndigbo, you hear that the Igbos have spoken. When you hear the Arewa Consultative Forum, they have spoken. So that is what we're trying to do as a people. So it is from that angle of negotiations that we would like to come from. So once we have educated our people, and of course, not just in the mundane causes that have no relevance in the 21st century, we want to aim higher too, like others. We want them to even study courses in artificial intelligence, in nanotechnology, in robotics, robonautics, aeronautic engineering, and the rest of them. Because that is where the world is going to. Remember that where we're coming from is he who controls the land controls the resources. But the world is moving away from there now. The world is moving away onto he who controls the brain power controls the rest of the resources. And that is where we're going to as a people. That once we have the brain power, then anywhere we stay and identify, then we'll be able to make meaningful impact. And I would like to even connect it to what you talked about. You talked about globalization, but in a local way. We even have a concept in our action plan now called glocalization. We're thinking global, but we're going to remain local. By remaining local now, we're not letting go of what binds us together and what the basics of our culture is, which is our language, how we dress. You can see the way I'm dressed. I'm dressed like a Gbagi man, speak our language. We make sure, we want to make sure that we ensure the preservation of our culture. But we're not just ensuring the preservation, because you can preserve something and after time it deteriorates. So we want to ensure the survival of the preservation of our culture. Okay. So glocalization is a concept, and we're marrying into it. We're not remaining in the past, and neither are we in a hurry to go to the future.
So encouraging the younger ones to seek for education, and like you said, quality education that will make meaning in the society. To what percentage can you assess them now as compared to how it was in the past? Are there increased enrollment in various institutions?
I would like to say progress is a slow process, because if you go to the north, for example, education is free throughout your primary school, and some of the secondary schools, education is free. But here, our people are left to compete. At some point, you see that the secondary schools are yes, they pay very high, and they cannot even go close to the private schools.
So to what extent can that affect you?
So of course it's been affecting, but just, you know, the dexterity of the baggy man. He has been able to make meaning out of all the meaningless things that have been happening to him. So to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, I think the baggy man has been able to attain 5. If you put it to me, I would say it's still poor, but progress has been made. But as long as we're going to keep making gains, and we put an action plan, and we set a timeline to say in the next 10 years or in the next 20 years, we intend to have at least 20% growth of those that are being educated.
Is there any hope?
Well, is there anyone who doesn't have hope?
How would you know?
Because hope is the only thing that keeps even hope alive. Hope is the only thing that allows people to still want to try again. Hope is the only thing that gives succor and say, oh, tomorrow is another day. So of course, yes, there is hope. We cannot lose hope. And that is why we always encourage our people that this is the new world now that is housing Nigeria, which is the FCT. So you have to thrive to get educated like those that have come here too. You have to be economically empowered like those. Don't lie down and say, oh, because the FCT belongs to us. There is no free lunch even in Freetown. So you have to work hard like others. You have to, but if there are a few concessions that should be made, and that is why some of us always say that we feel there are some concessions that should be made to the baggy people for giving out their land. And I don't even mind if they write a budget of a country, and our budget is 49 trillion, for example. Let's set aside 2% for the baggy people that have donated their lands. Every year, 2% goes into what we call either an educational trust fund, a socio-economic trust fund, socio-cultural trust fund, that should be able to mitigate this lack of education that we're talking about, or economic empowerment. Okay. Yes.
I really enjoyed, talking with you, because you actually exposed my perception about the tribe. Even the way you speak provides a very big hope for those who are right now watching you, that indeed a baggy man is not that ordinary person often think about by any other person, relegated to the background. It's not like that. I want to appreciate you greatly for taking your own time to be with us on this program this evening, and then analyze to the best of our understanding what that stands for. As we are parting short, just in one sentence, what would you say to those who are watching you around now before we draw the curtains to the program?
I would tell them that the baggy man has come of age, and the baggy man intends to thrive just like others, economically, educationally, and politically. So, but in this new world that we find ourselves, we're giving out, we're stretching out our hand, the hand of fellowship to the rest of the people that inhabit this place, that let's work together. That's what I can tell them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you greatly.
Oh, pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure as always.
Honestly. You have really increased my perception and the belief that indeed anything can happen. I thank you so much for the time taken to be with us again. I had my guest, Comrade Gaza Mark Auta, a commentator on national issues. He's a baggy man. You listen to the way he spoke and actually said the right thing that are required in making sure that the tribe itself gets up and move forward like any other, though in the face of threats. Well, that's about the size of the program Political Viewpoint on ASO Television. My name is Topsy Gimba. The news will be coming your way shortly at 7. So stay tuned and bye-bye.